Independence Blue Cross. A look at your 2024 Philadelphia Flyers from blue line to blue line. Broadcasting live from Chickies and Pete's, tonight's show is brought to you by Han & Stone Spa, Fogo de Chão, The Capitol Grill, Chickies and Pete's, Independence Blue Cross, and Payroll Service Solutions. We now go live to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Now, here are your hosts, Marc Farzetta and former Flyers goaltending great Bernie Parent.
Yeah.
There he is. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in On the Ice. Marc Farzetta, Bernie Parent, you heard it just there. Paul Jalovic off today. Happy to be filling in for Paul so I can hang out with my dear friend Bernie Parent. And you are listening to On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue. Live from Chickies and Pete's right here at 1490 WBCB 107.3 FM, seen live on YouTube. How are you guys doing in the YouTube world as well? We got so much to get into today, Bernie, including this series that NBC Sports Philadelphia is releasing throughout the week when it comes to John Tortorella talking about this unfortunate, disappointing season that the Flyers are going through. We also have some other news we want to get through. There was a major retirement announced in Philadelphia. And I don't mean Brandon Graham. I will ask you about Brandon Graham a little bit later and how an athlete knows when to hang it up. But Bob the Hound Kelly, 50 years with the, I'll say because it's hockey, organization, serving the community here in Philadelphia through Flyers charities after his playing days, phenomenally well. Like you, Bernie, when I was just a young kid almost 20 years ago, starting out in the business, you and Bob the Hound Kelly were two of the most approachable people I could ever come across. I want to ask you, yes.
I was a young kid, too.
you were just a young man as well. And just recently retired, I think it was. But I want to ask you about your playing days with Bob the Hound Kelly, some of your best Bob the Hound stories, and then, of course, just what it means to you to be a member of the Flyers alumni. Because it really is incredible. I know this gets brought up, and you might be tired of hearing of it right now, but the quote of walking together forever.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's ever a more true statement made by a coach about with a prediction that was made after winning the Stanley Cup. Because you guys, I didn't get to watch you guys play live. I didn't get to watch the Broad Street Bullies as it was happening. I was only told the stories of my dad, older relatives, older friends of the family, and they still bask in those stories. And whenever you see people out and about at an event like this, an autograph signing, whatever the case might be, I always find it fascinating that in the city of Philadelphia, the Flyers are extended family more than they are representatives of the city. And that's not the case for every professional team in the city of Philadelphia. But as of right now, Bernie, I just want to ask, I think I already know because it's always the same, your mood, but more so as it pertains to this, without question, Flyers rebuild right now.
Well, you know what? When you're rebuilding, you have to be patient. It takes time. Nothing clicks right away sometimes, which is, it's happening. And you know what? We're in the beautiful thing we have, okay? We have a good coach, okay? We have two good GMs, okay? And we have great people in Philly. And you start adding all this, and eventually you have to be patient a little bit. But eventually, everything comes together, and then the championship comes along.
Now, please speak to the mentality of this team, because you have John Tortorella. I know he doesn't get credit ever for being an optimist, but you talk about being patient. He talks about the disappointment that this season has been to this point. Obviously, getting to the trade deadline, you missed the playoffs by about 4 or 5 points last year. This year, it's obviously a distant cry to try to even make it into a wild card spot for this squad. But he talks about preaching patience. As a player that might be sticking around through all of it, Travis Konechny being one of them, talking about the captain of the team right now, Sean Couturier, trying to push through moments like this where it's a little bit later in your career, especially for a guy like Couturier. You didn't get dealt like Scott Lawton did, another veteran. What is it like for some of the older players on this team at this point to try to push through the moment that the Flyers are having right now when you talk about the rebuild?
Well, you have to have meetings among the players. No coaches, just the players, okay? And say, okay, guys, let's look at what's going on here. It's not going well. What can we do to change this as an individual? And each individual has a chance to speak, to say things. And don't be afraid, because we had those meetings, Don't be afraid if you're going to be a little bit difficult on some individuals. You know what? It's not because you don't like them or whatever. We're just talking about the game, how to improve our situation. Okay, it has nothing to do with how I feel towards you, but it's how I feel about changing the game, which is important to understand this. And then you go out and share how you feel about what's going on, each individual and as a team, and what could be changed, And if you go through the whole team like this in the meeting in the dressing room with nobody else but the players, then you understand. It clears your mind a little bit on, hey, what should we do here? What can I do as an individual to help the situation? And then if you have all 18, 19, 20 players, whatever, thinking this way, then things will change.
It really is amazing, especially when you talk about the state of the Flyers as it is right now. They're coming off after the shootout win. By the way, I think the last time you and I did a show, the Flyers had a 4-game winning streak or a 3-game winning streak. So
there you go.
Clearly, we're chemistry guys here.
There you go.
That's how it works.
Do it. Yeah.
But incredibly and unfortunately, since their amazing and incredible shootout win over the Winnipeg Jets, where everyone was getting excited over them being able to do what they did in that game against the Jets, they're 1-7 in that time. They have the 5th lowest point total in the NHL. They're 9 points out of the aforementioned wild card spot. 13 games left in the season. And as I'll say again, we'll reiterate throughout the show, obviously not a playoff team. If you could speak to that dressing room right now, Bernie, and you talked about players-only meetings a second ago there. If you could speak to that dressing room for the final 13 games to give them the right mindset, mentality as things wind down, what would you tell them?
I would first of all, I would ask them a question. Do you mind if you would bring Mark on the team? Yeah.
I can skate backwards. We were talking about it a second ago. It's been a minute, but I can skate backwards.
Well, you know what? Just what we were talking about is realize where you're at as an individual, how you can improve as an individual. Talk to your friends on the team, to you, the players, and then share that with the team when you have the team. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I haven't been doing, and this is what I'm going to do. But I'm going to need the help of the team to perform this way. So if you have 18, 19 players thinking this way, then you start changing,
You start putting it in you start moving the puck forward, so to speak.
Forward, of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Last year, as I mentioned, you missed the playoffs by 5 points just out of that wild card spot. The Flyers did. This is an area that is a huge concern for the Flyers, and I'll be referencing this throughout tonight as well over the next hour. When John Tortorella sat down with Ashley Sullivan of NBC Sports Philadelphia, she asked the coach, Torts, what's changed with this year? And a year ago, unfortunately, Carter Hart had to leave the organization. We won't go further than that with it, but had to leave the organization, and quite the curveball was thrown to the Flyers. He was a guy that the Flyers and Flyers fans, yourself, myself included, thought was going to be that next generational goaltender. And as of right now, of course, that is not the case. Right now, the Philadelphia Flyers have the worst save percentage in the entire NHL. Through 5 different starting goaltenders, 6 different starting goaltenders this year, the worst in the league. I know early on in your career you had struggles. Then, of course, you went on, and I don't need to tell you, had one of the greatest careers a goaltender has ever had in the NHL.
I was hoping you'd say that.
I was just going to leave that. I was just going to talk about the first couple of years of your career, gloss over. I don't really remember what happened the rest of it. That history lesson was never given to me. Yeah. But for a team that has to also be demoralizing, I mean, you're talking about defensive players that need to go out there, need to put in that effort. You talk about a coach holding players accountable all the time, sometimes more than some fans would like. But you talk about how demoralizing it could be when you're trying to stand in your head as defensive players, and unfortunately you have not the time to talk about. You talk about right now back-to-back shutouts. The offense obviously needs to get going. We'll talk about that also. When you talk about throughout the season, the worst goaltending in the NHL, how do you play like that knowing what's behind you isn't that great?
Well, I think like we shared a little bit earlier, communication is important. And I'll share just a couple of things here. If you tell your defenseman, the guy comes across the blue line alongside, and he's a right-hand shot, okay? And always have your defenseman play the man, okay? Because if it's a right-hand shot versus a left-hand shot, they're 2 different angles, right? So if I know if it's not if I know if it's a left-hand shot or right-hand shot, and I know how my defenseman is going to play him, play the man. Don't play the puck, play the man until you get to the puck. Then you change. But play the man, and I'll know how they're going to play if it's a right-hand shot or left-hand shot. Because if you play the man, and the opening, of course, is on the glove side, this is where I'm going to anticipate the shot coming on. If it's a left-hand shot, more likely the shot will go on the stick side. So, but it happens fast, and the players don't react as quickly as you do as a goaltender. So, it's all about communication, and I think maybe there's. I don't know for sure because I'm not involved, with the team, but it's so important to have that communication with the defense and the goalies on certain situation. What do you do? What am I supposed to anticipate? What am I supposed to do? And then once you understand each other like this, then you apply this to the game, and woof, things change,
You mentioned you like John Tortorella. You're a fan of his. When it comes to the mindset, the mentality of this hockey team, sometimes I wonder whether or not players feel like they're on too much of a short leash, like they can't make that mistake. Otherwise, Coach, obviously it's been well documented now with Matvei Mishkov, his progression throughout the year, Cam York most recently. Guys like that throughout the season, do they have too much pressure on them from the head coach, or do you feel like he's managing these guys just right?
Well, yeah, it could be there's pressure on everybody right now, the way things are going. And I think, you know what, and I keep referring to communication, because when I look back when we played, and like the first year when we beat Boston with Bobby Orr and all those guys, Boston should have won in 4 games, but the Flyers had a great goalie. No, I'm just kidding. No, but communication was so important on how to handle situations, players and stuff like this. Left-hand shot, right-hand shot. I don't think there's a communication there that it probably is, but it needs to be improved. And between the goalies and the defense, left-hand shot or right-hand shot, how is my defenseman going to play? If he plays the puck, then things change. But if he plays the man, I know where the shot is going to go.
There we go. We're giving lessons tonight. If you guys are defensemen, Bernie Perron is telling you how to help your goaltender a little bit there as well. Yeah. I don't want to be obviously just focusing on the negative here. When you talk about this Flyers team, you're also talking about the progression of some of these players. And one of those players we could talk about, obviously, is Bobby Brink and what he was able to do. And I had to dig deep for this. But when it came to your Independence Blue Cross Live Fearless Player of the Week, each week we were with us to a Flyer with the honor, and this week it's Bobby Brink. Now, unfortunately, I had to go 6 days back to find a player to be the Player of the Week when it came to this Flyers squad, but it is him and his game in Game 1 against Tampa in their recent series here. 2 goals with an assist, both in regulation, by the way, both even strength. The first one, Bernie, he goes top shelf glove side for his first goal in that game, and then backhand in the second period on the breakaway to put the biscuit in the basket to get that goal. Obviously, the Flyers went out there and won that game in the shootout. Remember to choose Independence Blue Cross today and begin to live fearless. Talking about the maturation process for some of the young guys on the team, Bobby Brink obviously taking some major steps forward.
Well, it's all what you're gifted as an individual, and and your performance on the ice, will reflect on the other players, which obviously probably cannot reach that level, but moving towards that level makes you a better player than not trying to get there.
Sure. Coming up, I want to talk about a couple of different things with you. One, Alexander Ovechkin, 8 goals away from setting the new record in the NHL. I never thought I'd see it. The generation, the pads changing and all that in the crease, everything like that, I never thought I'd see it, and here we are on the brink of it happening.
It's 8 goals?
8 goals away.
If I played, it would be 50 goals.
He would not be able to solve the riddle that is the Frenchman, Bernie Perron. I want to get to that. I also want your best Bob the Hound Kelly story, and personally, I have seen both you, Bob the Hound Kelly, Joe Watson, so many different Flyers alumni go out there with the community and really ingrain yourself with them, whether it was the softball teams back in the day, whether it was parades, obviously. Whatever it was, you guys were always right there with the community. Even to the point of when you walked in tonight, Pete, Chickies and Pete's obviously here, walked you back to meet members of Nazareth Academy. I believe the softball team, if I'm not mistaken. Like people just are drawn to your generation of Flyers.
You know what's nice, too, is, and I'm so proud that was involved with the right city, the right crowd, the right team, the right coaches, and the whole bit. And I show people these 2 rings. And you can't buy this, man.
I want to say, not to cut you off, before we started the show, you just put your fists out like that, and I was about to fist bump you, and you were like, touch the rings.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say no to that.
There you go.
So, obviously, I want to talk to you about the Alexander Ovechkin goal record that could, Gretzky's goal record for now that could be broken in the very near future. I don't think, as bad as the Flyers' goaltending has been, he's going to break it in the game tomorrow night, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And then I also want to ask you your best Bob the Hound Kelly story and what you remember about your playing days with him and since, because as we've said before, you guys are still walking together forever. That's when we return here to 1490 WBCB 107.3 FM live here from Chickies and Pete's on the Boulevard in Northeast Philadelphia.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky Pete's. Our selection of seasonal cocktails make any meal better. Come sip and enjoy our bourbon cherry lemonade, made with small batch bourbon, muddled fruits, and refreshing juices. What a winner! Is fruit your flavor? Try a watermelon shandy cocktail. A smoky grapefruit with mezcal and fresh lime. Or sip and enjoy a berry martini. All pair perfectly with our seasonal menu features. Come sip and enjoy at Chickies and Pete's.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
At Independence Blue Cross, we take care of the people who take care of you. Everyday heroes like firefighters, police officers, teachers, farmers, and healthcare workers. Doctors and hospitals across the region have IBX, and they know what it means to have reliable access to care. So whether you're saving lives or just trying to live a healthier life, count on IBX, the region's #1 health insurer for 85 years. Learn more at IBX.com.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Marc Farzetta and former Flyers goaltending great Bernie Parent.
Yes.
Welcome back, Chickies and Pete's, Northeast Philadelphia on the Boulevard, 1490 WBCB 107.3 FM. That's Bernie Parent. I'm Marc Farzetta, just so there's no confusion. One of your, I know, dear friends, one of your great teammates, Bob the Hound Kelly, after 50 years with the Flyers organization.
Yeah.
Working with Flyers charities, a number of other roles. Is hanging up, I don't know, the suit jacket? He's hanging it up after 50 years with the organization. When you think of Bob the Hound Kelly, all your memories with him, what jumps to mind?
Miracles.
Miracles?
I say
Are you
this.
talking about the 75 goal?
Yeah,
that won it? Yeah.
I say this because him and I were, and still are, great friends, you know. So I'm just kidding. Bob the Hound Kelly was, you know what? It was a great inspiration in the dressing room, in practice, and during the game. You know, when things weren't going so well, the Hound would take, you know, the situation on his back and start being physical a little bit, you know, with the opposite team. And, it was a reminder to all of us that, hey, wait a second. Now let's change and let's become Bob Kelly, for tonight. And then the whole game would change.
If I would have told you back in the mid-'70s, early '70s, that you guys wouldn't just have these great careers together and have 2 Stanley Cup championship rings, that you guys would continue to see each other for forever, and you guys would continue to work for the Philadelphia Flyers and be so prominent as you have been in the community, what would you have told me back in the '70s?
Well, you know what? I would say you're right. And the reason for this was because Bob was a great hockey player, in his not like a Gretzky, for an example, but the way we played, he was a physical hockey player, and the Hound was a positive individual in the dressing room, and he showed it that we played, that he wasn't just talking about it, that he performed that way too, that we played. And great individuals always cared about the players, the whole team, and I will always respect him and love him. Great individual.
Was he a better hockey player or softball player?
I thought you would say basketball.
Oh, really? He could hoop?
No, I'm just kidding.
If the Hound had
he's not
hops,
tall enough. Yeah.
if that was Bob Kelly's hidden talent,
Yeah.
I'd be rolling. Oh, our Nazareth friends are leaving. All right, see you guys.
Yeah.
They could go Nazareth. See you guys. Good luck to you. See,
Right.
those are your new friends.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, okay, if Bob the Hound Kelly was a secret basketball player, that would have blown my mind. All right, when it comes to you guys being out and about throughout Philadelphia, I will tell you this: I've had the great fortune of meeting some amazing people, and yourself included in this, Bob the Hound obviously included. My dad grew up here in Philadelphia area, and of all the people I've told him I met, especially my first year in the business, which was again almost 20 years ago, I told him I met a number of people. The people he was blown away by the most that I got to rub elbows with and talk to, I told him I met you, and I told him I met Bob the Hound Kelly.
Yeah.
And that was a great representation of what his generation really was into. Because even before the Phillies did anything and won their first World Series in '80, they had the Stanley Cup championships. And that was all they really had to cling to for the longest time. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what it is, but obviously the winning helps. But the attitude of that era, of your era of playing hockey and what it's built to now, why do you guys think you mixed so well with the city of Philadelphia where people are just still drawn to you?
Well, you just said the magic word. A team. So it wasn't just 20 hockey players on the ice or the coaches or whatever. It was the whole city of Philadelphia. I believe, and most players did too, that we were the whole city playing against a hockey team, not just a hockey team. We respected the people in Philly. You loved the people in Philly. And when we stepped on the ice, we're representing the people from Philly also, not just the organization. And that made a big difference.
I mean, I know a lot of people, they go and they look at the documentaries about the Broad Street Bullies and all that, and they talk about farm boys from Canada coming to the city of Philadelphia. I think it's Joe Watson that said he had to look on the map to find it, where was it and all that. His father coming to meet everybody on the team, and he still's got horse dung on his boots, walking through the dressing room. But it is amazing to me. It'll always be amazing how well you guys connected.
You said something about Joe Watson finding his home, right? Mm-hmm. I remember when he used to live in British Columbia, right? And I went up there for a hunting trip one time. And Joe's still looking for his house. So he doesn't remember.
From then to now, Bernie, I got to ask you this, and it's really the stat of the week brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. It is time now for the stat of the week, brought to you by Payroll Solutions. Service Solutions. Call them today at 1-866-PAY-EASY. That's 1-866-PAY-EASY. The stat I'm going to give you here is a real easy one there, Bernie. The stat is 8.
8.
That's the number. 8 goals for Alexander Ovechkin before he gets to Wayne Gretzky's 894 all-time scoring record in the NHL for goals in a career. The Flyers, and this ties in because the Flyers will drop the puck with the Washington Capitals tomorrow night. Did you ever think you would see Wayne Gretzky's record be broken?
No. The Ovechkin, I looked at him and I pictured myself being in that same situation, and he would shoot the puck, right? And would drop my gloves and grab it with my hand. So folks, I'm just kidding, of course. You know what? He's such a great individual. And you look at him, even on the ice or on the bench or doing a promotion or something, very kind, easy to smile, with people and the whole bit. Great individual. And something like this, I love, all those years we watched Gretzky to reach that unbelievable record. And then you have this individual here coming along, and there's only how many goals?
8 goals.
8 goals away from breaking that record. It's what it shows. It shows to people. I should have been a psychiatrist instead of a goaltender. But but you know what? It shows people when things are difficult in life. Don't quit. Think positively, and beautiful things will happen. And look what happened. Who thought that this guy would come along and break Gretzky's record? But I'm sure his philosophy, his approach in life has to be tremendous to beat a record like that.
Certainly, and one of the things, look, I'm of the school that records are meant to be broken and all that, but if you're telling me about who's got a more illustrious career, I mean, there's no question. It's obviously Wayne Gretzky. Mm-hmm. But to go from that era and the talent he played with in Edmonton specifically, and then looking at the talent that was kind of a struggle to put around Alexander Ovechkin, only winning 1 Stanley Cup to this point with the Capitals. I mean, if it's an all-time draft, I don't think anyone's taking Ovechkin over Gretzky. I think that's pretty easy to say. But when you look at the eras, and I hate comparing eras because so much has to go into it, but physically, the pads are vastly different. And I know a couple of years ago they shrunk the pads in the NHL again to be what they are now, but still, you're talking about what the Michelin Man compared to the era that you played in.
Well, you know what? I like to share my feelings about goaltending today. Not the human being, but the equipment, okay? And it's very important. You look at the pads, and I'm so grateful when I watch a game that I played when I played, because I was able to make all the movements that I learned, when I grew up. And today you watch your goalies, and the pads are so big and stiff they can move their feet. Okay, so they just stand on the edge of the crease. They don't challenge the shooter, and as soon as a guy makes a motion to shoot, they drop to their knees and get ready. And this is why now I think a lot of your goalies are 6'8", 6'7", 6'8".
Big, yeah.
Because once you drop on your knees, you still have enough chance to shoot a high shot,
Not that
a guy like me, I'd be 4 feet tall, for God's sakes. My knees. But so what it does, the problem with this is, as a goaltender, I look at the goalies, instead of challenging the shooter, maybe a foot or two in front of the crease, he stays back because they can't move on their skates. Like when they go from side to side, if you watch a game, they're all the same. They move. They have one leg on one pad on the ice, and they push across with the skate. So as they come across, now they have to get up, and the problem is they can't challenge the shooter because the equipment won't allow them to do this. Very, very difficult. And watch this, and I feel bad for them, and I'm so grateful I played when I played, because then you could challenge the shooters.
What's really interesting is a young man just came up to you and asked you for an autograph, and it was I don't know what the proper term, McFarland figure is the way I know it, but it was you making a blocker save, your blocker down, and you're basically on one knee, not 2 knees, and you held it up to me and you said, today they can't make this move, and I would have never thought of that.
Yeah, they thank God they can't make that move. But they so the equipment is so stiff, and you're seeing more and more goaltenders now in 6'7", 6'8", because once they drop to their knees, they're still tall enough to make the save. A guy like me, my God, they'll be going left and right, you know, and that's a part. And the second thing to join this difficulty here that we're talking about is the defense. I remember when I played, good defense, you communicate the whole bit, and then somebody standing in front of the net, then they move them. Okay, so I have a better visibility of where the puck is and who's shooting and where, and what to anticipate. Today, you can't even touch anybody. If you push somebody here like this a little bit, you get a 2-minute penalty. So between the pad, the equipment they have, and the drawback of the defense not touching anybody in front of the net.
Rules, yeah.
The rules is very, very difficult.
On that note, last thing for you, and this ties in the two things you were just talking about perfectly, that and Bob Kelly. As a quintessential power forward that the Hound was, how many goals would he score in today's game?
How many goals he scored?
How many goals would he score in today's version of hockey?
Well, the one thing for sure, if I played against him, my average would have been a lot better. But but he's, you know what, I'm joking because I love this guy. It's good. You know what, the Hound in the dressing room was always pumped, In practice was always pumped. We went on the road, we had a couple of drinks at dinner, whatever.
High energy?
Yeah, high energy.
You don't say.
Always pumped and caring person. So if you had a problem, whatever, if the Hound was able to help you, it would always be there. What a great individual.
That's really nice, man. That's really nice. I do want to say that segment was brought to you by Payroll Service Solutions. It's not just the stat of the week, it's the stat of the year and probably a career in the NHL as well, with Alexander Ovechkin approaching Wayne Gretzky's mark of 894. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY. That's 1-866-PAY-EASY, the smart choice in payroll services, easy for me to say. Payroll Service Solutions, catering the small and medium-sized businesses to handle all your payroll needs. Call them once again at 1-866-PAY-EASY. When we return, we'll talk about when an athlete knows when to hang it up like Brandon Graham did earlier this week. That's when we return right here on WBCB 1490, 107.3 FM.
Hi, it's Pete from Chicky and Pete's. Now, for a limited time, it's buy one, get one free snow crab legs every Tuesday. Buy one, get one free, and enjoy the sweet, delicate flavor of snowy white crab meat. Pair it with one of our handcrafted cocktails like the Stoli Vanilla Creamsicle or the Bourbon Peach Sweet Tea. Top it off with Chicky and Pete's world-famous crab fries. Buy one, get one free snow crab legs every Tuesday for a limited time. Restrictions apply only at Chickies and Pete's.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
At Independence Blue Cross, we take care of the people who take care of you. Everyday heroes like firefighters, police officers, teachers, farmers, and healthcare workers. Doctors and hospitals across the region have IBX, and they know what it means to have reliable access to care. So whether you're saving lives or just trying to live a healthier life, count on IBX, the region's #1 health insurer for 85 years. Learn more at IBX.com.
WBCB is now on your FM dial at 107.3, serving Bucks, Burlington, and Mercer counties since 1957. You can now listen to all your WBCB favorites crystal clear on 107.3 FM. A new age for WBCB on a new frequency, 107.3.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Marc Farzetta and former Flyers goaltending great Bernie Parent.
I do, Bernie, want to reference one more time with Bob the Hound Kelly. March 29th, the Flyers are going to be honoring him. I didn't include that in our last segment. I wanted to make sure I shouted that out as well.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, he deserves it. Yeah.
Certainly. Now, talk to me about this, because I mean, this is something the mere mortal human such as myself can't identify with. But you work your whole life at this sport. You have your idols growing up. You go through all the ranks. In football, for instance, they go through the college ranks, juniors, and in the NHL, all that stuff, and they finally make it to the show. They finally make it to the big leagues, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's over. 15 years for Brandon Graham in the league was a bust. You talk about mentality. I think you and Brandon Graham have a lot in common because you guys didn't have immediate success. You fought through it, and you became great players. And he has 2 championships. You have 2 championships. Mm-hmm. Long careers. It's at the end now.
Yeah, but wait. Look at this face.
Both of you, I will say, both of you got smiles that can light up the room.
There you go. Yeah, sure.
The personality.
Oh, he's a good man. I like him.
Yeah. Have you had many interactions with him?
Just a couple of times what we can share on radio, you know.
Okay.
But no, it's good. You could tell even on TV. You could tell what kind of an individual he was.
Sure.
You know, and he deserves everything that he's getting right now.
Yeah. You guys are just people that you're drawn to your type of personalities. Like people just want to be around you because they feel good about themselves when they're around you, that type of thing. Mm-hmm. But when you get to the end of your playing career, you obviously have had a great post-playing career and as involved as you are in Philadelphia. But what's going through an athlete's mind when the life that you've known forever, the life that you've worked so hard for, is now a thing of the past?
Well, good question. What's your next question? No, I'm just kidding. Good question. And in my case, I was during the game, and defenseman, forward, got tied up. They fell down, and the stick hit me in the eye.
Right.
And that was the end of my career. You know, and it was frustrating, but like we've talked about before, I'm a positive person, grateful that I played so many years, was it 14, 15 years altogether, and to have 2 championships, with the great organization, the Flyers, the players, the crowd, and it's just when you look back and you say, hey, there's a lot to be grateful for. Mm-hmm. And I accept the situation. It was supposed to happen, and life moves on, and everything works out.
Yeah, your mentality and your approach to everything is just something that we could all take note for in every walk of life, not just obviously sports. But the thing that's so amazing to me is that you guys, Brandon Graham included in this, and your teams, set a standard that has yet to be met. Like the Eagles, it still obviously is to be determined. That's recently that they just won their 2nd. But it's still a standard that has yet to be met. So you're talking about young guys coming in. And when you talk about the past in the city, now even with Brandon Graham's career, people will look to you. They'll look to BG. They'll look to both those eras of both football and hockey and saying, this is the bar. This is the bar you have to get to. When you're playing in the city of Philadelphia, we obviously want success. We want parades. We want trophies, championships, all that. But if it ain't going to get to that, and that takes a whole team, but if the whole team has the mentality such as yourself, the mentality of Brandon Graham, Bob Kelly, who we've referenced many times here, the Hound, if it has that mindset, you're also going to be loved forever in Philly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, definitely. Because it works the same way with us, too. We love people. Millions of people, we love them. And, they love us, but we love them, too, because the support. I remember a few years back now when we had the parade in Philly, and we had over, 2-3 million people, the parade, and we're waving, and, we're waving. And you know what was nice about this? Oh, just the fact that we're waving and having fun is that they were part of us. You don't win by yourself, you win as a team. That's what I like to share with people in life, if you want to succeed, become part of a good team, and be a member of a great team, and that everything will work out. And that's what happened to us.
That's something that's so incredible as well, because, I mean, just going recently now with Jason Kelsey retiring a year ago, Brandon Graham just this week, they both talked about, and I've heard you talk about this a number of times as well, this report, or this I don't know how to describe it, but our reputation as a Philadelphia fan base, in some areas it's earned, but in a lot of other areas there's plenty of things that don't get covered by the national media.
Yep.
We can talk about your playing, you can talk about your team, then most recently you can talk about the Eagles. Like, these are guys that forever will never have to buy a drink in the city of Philadelphia. They'll never have to buy a meal in the city of Philadelphia. When it comes to your interaction with Philadelphia Flyer fans, I can't imagine that there's any other fan base that would even compare to the relationship you have here.
This is, when you step on the ice for the first period, right? It's in my mind now, I'll never forget this. You step on the ice and you have the crowd cheering. You feel that love, from 18 or 20,000 people, and you know what it does to you is, wow, you become even psychologically better than when you left the dressing room. It's a beautiful thing. So it's our part in life in general. You win as a team. Nobody wins on their own. You win as a team. And that's what we had, the beautiful fans in Philly, part of the team, and that's why we won those championship.
And now I have to ask you about the other side of this.
Yep.
The other side of this is the booing. Now, I have to ask you about this because it just happened last week, I think it was, against the Hurricanes. Flyer fans, just like every Philadelphia fan, not short of an opinion, fans got booed on the home ice. As a player, how do you take that? I know it didn't happen often in your career, but I'm sure every now and then there's a bad moment. How do you take that as a player? How would you take young players that are obviously trying to develop like this Flyers team to take being booed like the Flyers were this week?
Well, you learn. Communication is very important. Communicate with the players. Players are getting cheered up all the time, and ask questions. And what are you doing psychologically to receive cheers like this all the time? And I'm getting booed.
Okay.
And then you ask a question, you listen what they have to say, and see where you fit in and what he just said. And obviously you're not fitting that well, but you make the adjustment to become similar to that person, and then everything changes.
I always thought of it like this, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. Because I grew up here. I'm a fan of these teams still. I still got that in me. It's not all objectivity. But when it comes to booing at a game or whatever, I always thought that that's my only chance as a fan to really vote. That's my only chance to really say I approve of what's going on, I don't approve of what's going on. And I understand that the Flyers are going through what I believe is a very necessary rebuild. The unfortunate fact of the matter is that this year is obviously a step back. You're not going to be making the playoffs. You're not going to be knocking on the door of the playoffs. It doesn't look that way. You look at what Danny Briere, Keith Jones did during the trade deadline. They obviously sold. They're accumulating first-round picks. We know where the Flyers are at. We know where they stand. They've been very open and honest with it. They've been very transparent. But as a fan, doesn't mean I have to like it. And if I think I don't approve of an effort, as it certainly seemed like some fans thought, if I'm an athlete, and this, again, you could speak to this, I can't, but I would assume that you have to take that with a grain of salt. You have to take that with the idea of, all right, this is my kick in the butt. Whatever I'm doing right now, I got to either try harder, I got to have more success.
Yep.
I would do my best to not take it personally.
Yep.
Is that the right approach to take with it?
Yeah. And also the right approach is, again, I've referred to that quite a few times earlier tonight, is how am I doing as a team? Okay? Not as an individual, which is fine. You have to work on this. But how am I approaching the team to become part of that team? Because you win as a team. You don't win with one individual. You win as a team. And communication. If something, I believe something is not working well, it's not happening. I believe in the dressing room with no coaches, nothing, just the players, and you want to share the setbacks that you're feeling or whatever, and say, how can you help me? How can how can I get out of this stuff? And you communicate with that question on a positive approach, and then everything changes.
When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about John Tortorella's interview that he had with NBC Sports Philadelphia, Ashley Sullivan, about what's going on with this Flyers team right now and where they're at now and where they should be in the next year or two. We'll cross our fingers for that, but we'll talk about that when we return. You're listening to WBCB. Hope you're enjoying the show. My name is Marc Farzetta. I'm in for Paul Jalovitz tonight here at Chickies and Pete's in Northeast Philadelphia. This is WBCB 1490, 107.3 FM, Chickies and Pete's, and also here on YouTube. See you guys in a minute.
Hi, it's Pete from Chickie and Pete's. Wrap up your workday with the all-new Chickies and Pete's Happy Hour. With unbeatable specials weekdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Enjoy half-price orders of Chickies medium and tender wings, one of our tasty and delicious pizzas, or an order of mouth-watering hot, cold, or fried shrimp. Plus $3 domestic bottled beers, $5 Tito's, and $6 seltzers. It's the all-new Happy Hour weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. only at Chickies and Pete's.
Payroll Service Solutions was established in 2001 to cater to the payroll needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Payroll Service Solutions offers unparalleled customer service while they deliver a complete and accurate payroll. When calling Payroll Service Solutions, you will never be put into a voicemail or go through a series of prompts to get to a person. All customer service representatives are extensively trained to handle all of your payroll needs, therefore saving you time. They value each and every one of their clients. No account is too small. Call Payroll Service Solutions today at 1-866-PAY-EASY for a no-obligation review of your payroll needs. That number again is 1-866-PAYEASY. Payroll Service Solutions.
At Independence Blue Cross, we take care of the people who take care of you. Everyday heroes like firefighters, police officers, teachers, farmers, and healthcare workers. Doctors and hospitals across the region have IBX, and they know what it means to have reliable access to care. So whether you're saving lives or just trying to live a healthier life, count on IBX, the region's #1 health insurer for 85 years. Learn more at IBX.com.
Let's take a moment to breathe. Deep inhale. Extend your spine. Remain focused on what you're doing. If safe to do so, exhale slowly, leaning to one side. Inhale back to center. If safe to do so, exhale slowly to the opposite side. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org. This message is brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
We now return to Chickies and Pete's for On the Ice, presented by Independence Blue Cross. Once again, here are your hosts, Marc Farzetta and former Flyers goaltending great Bernie Parent.
Wow.
We're here at Chickies and Pete's, Northeast Philadelphia, right here on the Boulevard, 1490, WBCB 107.3. And on YouTube, you got the, do I call it a throwback? But you got your orange your orange and black on.
Yeah.
The warm-up jacket.
I love orange.
You don't say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I just need to profess my love. I didn't do this the last time, and I regretted it. I don't know why, but I'm a kid. I grew up in Doylestown. I'm originally from Ambler. But I went to Temple University, and I don't know why, but all my closest friends were all Northeast kids. All Northeast Philadelphia. I love Northeast Philadelphia. I love these people. Yeah, absolutely. I love coming to Chickies and Pete's here. Always having a great time. Great to hang out with you, of course, yet again. Now, the unfortunate thing, as I teased before the break here, is the Philadelphia Flyers are not in a great spot. As we started the show, I mentioned the state of the Flyers. They're 1-7 since their great shootout win over the Winnipeg Jets, one of the best teams, if not the best team in hockey. They now got the Washington Capitals coming up tomorrow night, so that's not going to be an easy one. They have the 5th lowest point total in the NHL. Obviously not bound for the playoffs, but during John Tortorella's interview with NBC Sports Philadelphia this week, which they're releasing in a series, he talked about turning the corner. And although after just missing the playoffs last year by about 5 points, this year has been a major step back. He pointed to Carter Hart not being here. That story broke, obviously, a little bit more than a year ago as being the number one reason why the Flyers aren't being nearly as competitive as they were last year. You sell at the trade deadline. It's a bad spot to be. But he said during the interview, next year is going to be the last year where they got to eat a lot of the dead money. And on the subject of eating, he said that right now, unfortunately, they got to eat a lot of fill in the John Tortorella expletive there. And it's true. But as Bernie, as he's eating it as a coach, and as right now as an organization, they're eating it, fans are also eating it as well.
Yep.
You mentioned when we went over some of this stuff earlier in the show that it's all about preaching patience, not just as fans, but also as a team. How does a team get through this with still trying to keep a winning personality and a winning mindset?
Well, it's all, again, we shared that earlier tonight. Pardon me. Communication with the coaching staff and the players, and just the way you describe the situation you just did. And look at each other, and realize that again, you heard me say this many times tonight and before, it's all about team effort. You win as a team, you lose as a team. It's not one individual or whatever, you lose as a team. So you have coaching staff, you have your coach, you have the scouts, you have the beautiful crowd in Philly that we have. And then once you put all this together, and you work together, then somehow the miracle happens. And this is when beautiful things happen.
To use another word that John Tortorella said, and I didn't expect this from Torts, tizzy. It threw the season into a tizzy without having Carter Hart, according to the Flyers head coach. And he also talked about not being discouraged through this season. One of the more uplifting things, and you can't take many, unfortunately, right now, but after the Flyers lost, and it was their first of back-to-back shutouts now, after they lost and were shut out by the Carolina Hurricanes, he was asked about the team's effort, and he was asked about the team being booed by the Flyer fans. And if John Tortorella is going to be honest about anything other than just a player relationship, he's going to be honest about not liking a team's effort. When you watch this Flyers team, Bernie, when you're down there at the games, what do you make of their effort? Because he defended his players. He had the opportunity in a 5-0 loss to say, the effort wasn't any good. These guys are going to be benched. I'm not doing it with this team any longer. They at least have to give me the effort. I know we might not have the skill and the talent, but effort's got to be their own. He didn't take that tact. He said the effort was fine. What are you making of this Flyers team now, especially as the season's winding down?
Well, you know what? It's all I think it's all, and we shared this earlier tonight, I think it's all part of, you sit down, and what we did when we won, those two championships, you had Clarkey is a tremendous leader,
Sure.
And you had defense. We're talking about Joe Watson and the other defense. Then you had the forward, and then of course we had the goalie. But it's all about how you approach. How do you change a situation that is not pleasant right now? And how do you do this? You do this from coaching staff to the players, and going out and having a good conversation among the players and their coaches in one room. You lock the doors, nobody else involved, and understand each other, where you're coming from. How do we have to change to make things better? It's very important.
A couple other things. I hope you're talking to this team regularly, because I think some of these guys need it. But one of the other things that John Tortorella talked about was Tyson Forrester, talked about Drysdale, talked about Cates, talked about Brink, talked about those guys developing with this Flyers squad and whether or not the Flyers will be able to hold on to these guys in the future. Also talked about this team growing and having to hang in there during the growing pains of the Philadelphia Flyers. And then also talked about how that money is going to be coming off the books next year, and that's where they hope after next season, where they're not eating as much dead cap money, they can start talking about really starting to turn the corner of this rebuild. When it comes to the city of Philadelphia having to deal with any type of process or rebuild, the number one thing people are going to think about is the 76ers, because they went through quite the process, and it has not bore any fruit, unfortunately. This is a Flyers team that is being open, but they're also open to the idea of making the playoffs. Not this year, but they almost tripped into it last year. how important is it, and how do you avoid, through a rebuilding process, not the process, but a rebuilding process, how do you avoid not taking on a losing or a loser's persona in that time?
Well, it all starts, you have a hockey team, okay? Pardon me, you have a coaching staff. You have the trainers, okay? Now leave the fans alone for a while. And you have ownership, okay? And I think it's important for everybody, I just mentioned, to get together, not one sharing something, the other one sharing something else or whatever, as a team. I think it's important, would be important for, maybe they are, I don't know, but, to have the organization, get together, with the players, management, coaches, and the whole bit, and talk about the situation. What are we doing wrong that we're not succeeding? What can we do to turn this around and succeed? As an organization, goes from the owner, the management, the trainers, the coaches, the players, and the whole bit. So you just don't approach the coach with the players. You approach your whole organization. You close the doors and then share with this. And then I think once you take this approach, then everything changes for the positive. Yeah.
I'll say this, as far as being positive, and I love the fact that the Flyers are being as transparent as they've been through all this. I love John Tortorella as a head coach of this team, but when we talk about tangible reasons to be optimistic, one, I mentioned the money. The other is you talk about the picks that this team is due over the next couple of years, and you hope those guys can be groomed and turned into something special. More specifically, 7 picks in the first 2 rounds, 3 in the first round, 4 second-rounders as well with this hockey team. So also talked about 6 first-rounders over the next 3 years for this hockey club. That's pretty important as well. But when you talk about trusting the front office, Danny Briere just had to, and this blew my mind, I didn't even realize this until I read it. Danny Briere, trading Scott Lawton, had to trade a teammate. Like, how often does that happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Played with Scott Lawton, now he's trading Scott Lawton. But he sat there in the Flyers front office, learned the ins and outs of the business, not just learned how to do things, but also how to correct mistakes. Keith Jones is a guy I worked with for 13 years in radio, and when he got the job to be the Flyers president, I just thought about the fact that this guy he doesn't fail. If he's asked to be the second man, third man in on a radio show, he's the best at it. If he's asked to be a national analyst, he's the best at it. If you need a rat man in the corner at the NHL level, he was one of the best guys to do it.
Yeah.
So you talk about this front office right now. They have a history of being successful. I hate to use any term of trust the process or anything like that, because I believe this is a far different thing than what we went through as basketball fans in the city of Philadelphia. I have a lot more confidence in this Flyers front office turning the corner. I have a lot more confidence in John Tortorella being a winning head coach in this hockey league to kind of put all these chips in the middle of the table and let guys like Danny Briere, let guys like Keith Jones, and let guys like John Tortorella, and a history such as yourself, and still influence on the organization, still have the ability to make sure that this comes out with the chips in the middle of the table and you take them out as champions. I have a lot more confidence because of the group that's running this than I have anything else in Philly.
Yeah. But having said that, if you act individually, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, right.
The whole thing has to get, the whole bunch of people you mentioned, the players, management, and the whole bit, have to get together and close the door with nobody else listening and share exactly what you're talking about. And then that's when you see the results.
Maybe have you sitting outside, then they bring you in, you could talk to them, you could get them going. Positive outlook.
I'll try talking to them in French, see how it works.
I think you'll have a handful of players, understand? I think I'll have Hey, I'm just getting the red light here. Bernie, always a pleasure, my friend. So great to hang out with you. You know I love you, buddy. Always great seeing you, Jenny as well.
And you know what? I believe one of these days, these years, we're going to shake hands like this, celebrating the Stanley Cup.
I'm with you, brother.
I'm
with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But it has to come from the team effort.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. I don't need to say his name again, but you know him, you love him. His name is Bernie Perrant, 2-time Stanley Cup winner, Hall of Fame netminder as well. My name is Marc Farzetta. My shout-outs here for Stephen Lawler back in studio, Chris Ermer here at Chickies and Pete's in Northeast Philadelphia. Appreciate you guys doing a great job spinning the dials, touching the buttons, and all that stuff here at Chickies and Pete's in Northeast Philadelphia, as well as back in the studio. For WBCB Sports, 1490. and 107.3 FM. My name is Marc Farzetta. Thanks to everybody on YouTube as well. Appreciate you guys joining us here from Chickies and Pete's. Bernie, always a pleasure.
You're the best, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See ya.
You're listening to 1490 WBCB and on your FM dial at 107.3 W297CL Levittown.